I'm sitting in my car. The engine's off. The only thing I can hear is my own heart trying to hammer its way through my ribs. The streetlights are casting these long, weird shadows across the driveway of our home. The home we built together. On the passenger seat next to me, there's a simple manila folder. It looks like nothing. Harmless. But inside is the proof. The meticulously documented destruction of my marriage. For 3 agonizing weeks, I've been playing a part in my own house. A ghost in my own life. I've smiled. I've asked about her day. I've played the loving husband while my stomach felt like it was full of acid and grief. She's in there right now, probably watching TV, with no idea that her world, our world, is hanging by a thread. She has no idea that tonight, the show is finally over. The curtain's coming down. And I'm the one pulling the rope. But to understand how we got here, to this silent car and this terrible folder, we have to go back. Back to a time when the silence between us was actually comfortable, not a weapon. Our story, like most, didn't start with secrets and lies. It started with laughter. A shared love for cheesy sci-fi movies and a firm belief that pineapple does, in fact, belong on pizza. Her name's When I met her, it was like my life had been in black and white, and she was the first thing I'd ever seen in color. She had this way of tilting her head when you talked, like you were the only person in the world. We dated for 2 years, a blur of late-night talks, spontaneous road trips, and that easy rhythm you fall into when 2 people just click. We got married on a crisp autumn day. I still remember seeing her at the end of the aisle and just feeling this wave of calm. This was it. This was my person. We bought a small house with a big yard for a dog we swore we'd get one day. We spent 3 weekends arguing over paint swatches before finally painting the walls a soft gray. We tried to plant a garden that first spring and killed almost everything, but we just laughed about it. We had our routines, our little rituals. I was the coffee guy. Every morning, I'd make it strong and black, just how she liked it. She was the one who always made sure my work shirts were ironed, even when I told her she didn't have to. Sunday mornings were for the crossword puzzle. We were a team. Friday nights were for takeout and a movie, curled up on a couch we definitely spent too much money on. We talked about everything. At least, I thought we did. We talked about the future, about the kids we wanted. We even had names picked out. We talked about retiring somewhere warm, where we could walk on the beach every day. I remember one night, maybe a year before it all fell apart, we were on the back porch, watching the fireflies. She put her head on my shoulder and said, "I feel so safe with you." I held her tighter and thought, this is real. I loved her. I loved our life. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, just quiet and content. It was a life I trusted. I trusted her. The idea that she could do what she did wasn't just unlikely. To me, it was impossible. She was my partner, my best friend. The other half of every single plan I made. That's what made the shift so confusing. It wasn't some big earthquake. It was a slow rot that started from the inside. So slow, I barely even noticed the foundation of my life was turning to dust. It started with her phone. I know, it's a cliché, but it's a cliché for a reason. Her phone used to be left anywhere. The coffee table, the kitchen counter. Suddenly, it was attached to her. Always in her hand, in her pocket, or face down next to her. If she left the room, the phone went too. One night, I playfully reached for it to look something up, something I'd done 1,000 times, and she snatched it back so fast it actually startled me. "I'll get it," she said, her voice a little too sharp. The excuse was a new privacy policy at work. Sounded real enough. I let it go. But that little seed of doubt was planted. Then came the late nights at work. Her job was 9 to 5. Always had been. Now, all of a sudden, she was staying late twice, sometimes 3 times a week. "Big project," she'd say, sighing like she was exhausted as she walked in around 9 p.m. The excuses were always just vague enough to work. And I wanted to believe her. I really did. So I'd have dinner waiting. I'd listen as she talked about the pressure of it all. The emotional gap grew right along with it. Our talk stopped. When I'd try, I'd get one-word answers. She always seemed a million miles away. The intimacy we had just evaporated. She'd flinch if I touched her unexpectedly. Our bed started to feel like this huge, empty space. When I'd ask her what was wrong, if I did something, she'd just shake her head. I'm just stressed, that's all. It's this project. It's killing me. She made me feel like I was the problem, like my concern was just more pressure. It was my first real taste of gaslighting. I lived in that fog for a month, doubting myself. Was I being paranoid? Was I making it all up? I tried to be a better husband. Took on more chores, suggested a weekend trip. Nothing worked. The gap just got wider. The investigation didn't start with some big decision. It was just a quiet, sad moment of acceptance. I knew something was wrong. I just had to know what. I started a private log on my computer. It felt gross, like I was the one betraying her, but I needed it for my own sanity. I wrote down the dates of her late nights. The vague excuses. The defensiveness over her phone. The first real piece of evidence came from our phone bill. We had a family plan. One night I just logged in, and there it was. One number. Called and texted over and over again. Dozens of calls. Hundreds of texts. Especially on the nights she was stuck at work. Midnight. 2 a.m. My heart was pounding as I looked at the timestamps. This wasn't work. I Googled the number. Nothing. A burner. But now I saw the pattern. Every late night matched a flurry of texts and calls to this ghost. The project wasn't at her office. The project had a phone number. My focus shifted. The sadness was still there, but now it was mixed with this cold, sharp anger. I started paying attention to everything. She'd started talking about a new friend from the gym, a guy named Mark. She'd bring him up casually, maybe a little too casually. Oh, Mark said the funniest thing today. It was clever. She was normalizing him. The final piece clicked into place because of one stupid mistake. She loved this one coffee shop across town. Said it was her me time. One Saturday, I was running errands and drove by. And I saw her car parked on a side street. But she wasn't alone. My blood went ice cold. I pulled over, my hands shaking so bad I could barely put the car in park. I got out and walked, hiding behind cars like a spy in some cheap movie. And then I saw them. And a guy I didn't recognize. They weren't in the coffee shop. They were walking out of an apartment building across the street. He had his arm around her waist. She was laughing. That easy, happy laugh I hadn't heard in months. I literally thought I was going to be sick. He kissed her. Not a peck. A long, slow kiss, right there on the sidewalk. And she kissed him back. My first instinct was to run over there and scream. But a colder part of me took over. The part that knew a scene would just lead to more lies. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I lifted my phone, and with trembling hands, I took a picture. It was perfectly clear. The kiss. The apartment building. The Saturday morning sun. The final receipt. I turned around, walked back to my car, and drove home in a complete daze. The investigation was over. Now I had to plan the confrontation. Those 3 weeks between seeing them and the confrontation were the longest of my life. I was living in a nightmare. I had this bomb locked away inside me, and I had to act normal. I went to work, paid bills, and I'd ask Laura about her day and just listen to the lies, my face a perfect mask. Every meal, every conversation was a performance. I was gathering my strength and planning the final act like a demolitions expert. I printed the phone bills. The bank statements showing the suspicious cash withdrawals. And I printed the photograph. A glossy 8 by 10. I put it all in the manila folder. I chose a Tuesday night. Just a boring, normal Tuesday. I let her come home, go through her whole routine. She changed, made tea, and sat on the couch to watch her show. I let her get comfortable. Then I turned off the TV. She looked up, annoyed. Hey, I was watching that. We need to talk, Laura, I said. My voice was calm. So calm it didn't even sound like mine. Can it wait? I'm exhausted. No, I said, walking to the coffee table. It can't. I placed the manila folder on the table. She looked at it, suspicious. What's that? I sat in the armchair across from her. Not next to her. I needed the space. For the past few months, I started, You've been distant. You told me you were stressed with work, staying late, being secretive with your phone. You told me it was a big project. Her arms crossed over her chest. It is a big project. I don't know what this is, but I'm too tired for it. Oh, I believe you've been working on a project, I said. I just don't think it's at your office. I opened the folder. First, I slid a phone bill across the table. Can you tell me who this number belongs to? You texted it over 300 times that month. A lot of them after midnight on your late nights. Her face went white. The mask started to crack. That's a colleague. We were coordinating. A colleague you text at 2 in the morning? Whose number isn't saved in your phone? I don't know what you're implying, she snapped. Here comes the denial. I was ready. I pulled out the next month's bill and the one after. Fanned them out on the table. It's a pattern, Laura. Hundreds of texts and calls. To the same secret number. She pushed the papers away. This is insane. You're acting crazy. You're invading my privacy. The gaslighting. Right on schedule. I was the bad guy now. The paranoid husband. But the folder kept me grounded. You're right, I said quietly. Phone records aren't real proof. I paused. Then I pulled out the bank statements. But what about these? Cash withdrawals. 100 here, 80 there. Always from an ATM near that coffee shop you love. What did you need cash for, Laura? Her jaw was clenched. She was cornered. I bought things. For us. A surprise. The lie was weak. Pathetic. Gifts. I repeated. I let the word just hang there in the quiet. She stared at me, her eyes wild with anger and panic, looking for a way out. But I had one more thing. The ace in the hole. I reached into the folder one last time. My hand was shaking now. I pulled out the 8x10 photo. I looked at it one last time. The kiss, his hand, her face, and felt this final, crushing wave of sadness. Then it turned to steel. I placed the photograph on the table, right on top of everything else. She didn't look down at first. I can't believe you're doing this, she started, her voice shaking. After everything you're accusing me of. Her voice died as her eyes fell to the table. She saw the photo. And just like that, it was over. All the fight just vanished. The color drained from her face. Her mouth fell open. She brought a hand up to cover it, like she was trying to physically stop a sob. Her eyes were glued to the picture. To the undeniable, catastrophic proof. The silence in the room was absolute. I could hear the refrigerator humming. I could hear myself breathing. She just stared. No crying. No screaming. The person she had been pretending to be for months shattered into a million pieces. After what felt like forever, she looked up at me. The anger was gone. The denial was gone. All that was left was this hollow, empty shame. No tears, just a raw, desolate look. Who is he? I whispered. She swallowed hard. Her voice was a choked, ragged sound. His name is Mark. And that was it. The confession. Not a big drama. Just a quiet, pathetic surrender. The fight was over. All that was left was the wreckage. In the quiet that followed, we were just two strangers in a living room we'd painted together, separated by lies you could never untell. The picture on the table felt like it was radioactive. I stood up slowly. I think you should go, I said. It wasn't a question. She looked up, confused. Go where? I don't care, I said, the coldness in my own voice surprising me. Go to a friend's house. A hotel. His apartment. You just can't stay here. That's when she started crying. But they were tears of self-pity, not regret. You're kicking me out? She cried, like she was the victim. I'm asking you to leave the house you filled with lies, I said. Pack a bag. I'll be in the guest room. I want you gone when I come out. I didn't wait for her to answer. I walked into the spare room and closed the door. I could hear her sobbing, drawers opening and closing, the sound of a zipper. About an hour later, I heard the front door open and click shut. Then true silence. I was alone in my own house. The next few days were a blur. I did what you're supposed to do, I guess. I called a lawyer. It was this cold, sterile conversation about separation and joint accounts that felt totally disconnected from the bomb that had gone off in my life. Laura sent a flood of texts. First, the apologies, promising she'd change. Then the blame that I was distant, that I didn't pay attention, that I somehow drove her to it. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Moving on isn't a straight line. Some days are good. I feel free, like I escaped a lie. Some days are bad. The grief just hits you, and I mourn the woman I thought she was, and the future I thought we had. But through it all, I started to reclaim myself. The whole process of investigating, of gathering the proof, it was awful. But in a weird way, it was empowering. I took back control of my own story. I wasn't just a side character in her drama anymore. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It shatters how you see everything. You have to rebuild your world from scratch. I started going to therapy. It's helped me see that her choices were about her, not me. They came from something broken inside of her, and it had nothing to do with my worth. I also learned there's a lot of power in quiet strength. I didn't scream or throw things. I was calm, methodical. I let the evidence speak for itself. And in that control, I found the dignity she tried to take from me. My revenge wasn't loud. It was just the quiet, unavoidable bill for her choices finally coming due. Today, months later, life is different. The house is quieter, but it's a peaceful quiet. I finally got that dog we always talked about, a goofy golden retriever who fills the house with a much better kind of energy. The divorce is almost final. I don't know where Laura is, and I've chosen not to know. Her story isn't my story anymore. The manila folder is gone. Shredded. I don't need it. The evidence did its job. It led me to the truth, and the truth, as brutal as it was, set me free. The scar is still there. I think it always will be. But it's a scar, not an open wound. It's a reminder of a battle I survived. And in a strange way, I'm stronger for it. Thanks for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell. If you've been through something like this, I'd be grateful to hear your story in the comments. It helps to know you're not alone. And as always, if you found any value in this, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Take care of yourselves.